Grab a beverage and get comfortable because we've got a lot more good music to enjoy tonight on Texas Tunesmith. I'm your host, George Bancroft, and John Paul Martin is our featured guest. Like all red-blooded Texas boys, John Paul's fond of the ladies. We'll let him convey that message as he tells us about, and we listen to another song from the last CD he recorded with Southbound 35. The song's title is Rarin' to Go.
That was another song that I wrote probably when I was 18 or 19 years old. And, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm raring to go." Well, it's actually got a second meaning. It's kind of, let's just say, the first time that you've ever had an experience with someone of the opposite sex. Let's just leave it at that.
Here we go. We appreciate you doing that, John Paul, because Texas Tunesmith is a family show, and we're raring to go.
Remember where I was born back home, swimming in that crystal water of the pond her daddy owned. I wanted to get to know her, I wanted to catch her eye, but every time I saw her, she'd always pass me by. Until that autumn night when the moon was up so high, I was swimming in that very place that she was stopping by. I wanted to get to know her, but I was so damn shy. When it got down to it, I didn't have to try, 'cause she was willing and ready to understand the things that take a teaching between a woman and a man. I was a believer, the preaching in my soul. I was learning about love, and I was ready to go. Me and it knocked me off my feet, thinking this had been the moment I'd been waiting to see. And she took me by the hand and looked me in the eye. She took me to heaven, and in the nick of time she was willing and ready for me to understand the things that take a teaching between a woman and a man. I was a believer in the preaching in my soul. I was learning about love, and I was ready to go. First taste of love, man, was I surprised. Led me to the water, right before my eyes. She was willing and ready for me to understand the things that take a teaching between a woman and a man. I was a believer in the preaching in my soul. I was learning about love, and I was ready to go.
John Paul Martin writes quality upbeat numbers like Rarin' to Go that we just heard, and he writes nice ballads as well. We'll get to hear one of those shortly. I spent about an hour on the phone with John Paul and learned quite a bit about his life to date in the process. His grandparents raised him over in Odessa, but his mother was very much a part of his life as well. The three of them have always been supportive of his musical pursuits as he worked everywhere from the oil field to the print shop to keep himself fed and sheltered. John Paul's old friends from high school have also been a big help. He's called on those friends to get feedback on his career, and he's called on the memories created with those friends to put some of his songs together. John Paul be quick to tell you that it's nice to have a supportive family and longtime friends, but it doesn't hurt to make some new friends like John Paul did when he was working on the next tune we're going to hear. I'll let John Paul give you the title as he tells us the tale behind that tune.
Take Me Back to Texas was actually the last song I wrote, and we were decided we were going to put 9 songs on the CD. And we went back in the studio, and like the day before we went in the studio, because Nick Carlton had arranged for Lloyd Maines to come in, And the day before Lloyd was coming in, I wrote the song, and then I went in the studio, and none of the guys in the band had even heard the song. And I showed them to them. They said, "That's really cool." So Lloyd actually had a little bit to do with the producing on that song. Lloyd kind of helped us mold that. What the song is basically about, kind of going to high school and going to college, to finish college. You end up having a really sucky job, and you're just so miserable. You're like, man, I want to go back to Texas where nothing mattered before we worried about our jobs and our lives, and there were no worries in the world. And that's really what the song's about. Take me back to Texas. I want to go home. Take me back to where. And actually, the word is take me back to Texas so I can live again.
Remember back when we were all still in high school? We'd stay out all night 'cause we were just too cool. They say we're crazy for having a little fun, drinking that whiskey all night until we saw the sun. Well, take me back to Texas. I wanna go home, where the stars at night are big and bright, and those cowboys roam. We'll go out by the railroad tracks, throw caution to the wind. Take me back to Texas, let me live again. Remember back when we were all still friends, before we bitched about our jobs and how these lives would end. Under the moonlight, drinking a case of that shining vodka beer. To hell with this place, just look in my face. I wanna get me out of here, so take me back to Texas. I wanna go home, where the stars at night are big and bright, and those cowboys roam. Go out by the railroad tracks, throw caution to the wind. Take me back to Texas, let me live again. Yeah, we'll go back down to that poor town, get a little wild and loud, where the streets have no name. I feel no pain, St. Peter's hanging out the crowd. Yeah, yeah. Take me back to Texas. I wanna go home, where the stars at night are big and bright, and those cowboys roam. Go out by the railroad tracks, throw caution to the wind. Take me back to Texas, let me live again. Take me back to Texas so I can live again. I've always loved Texas. I love their beer, I love their women. Can't forget the best thing about Texas. Land of the free and home of the brave.
You're listening to Texas Tunesmith. I'm your host, George Bancroft, and we're hearing the tales behind the tunes of John Paul Martin. He was the front man for the band Southbound 35 for a number of years, but he's decided to walk out on the high wire by himself. John Paul's putting a new band together and going back in the studio. We can expect a new release from him soon, but in the meantime, I want to let you know where you can catch one of his live performances. John Paul will be opening for Gary P. Nunn at Blaine's Pub in San Angelo on Friday, July the 9th. The wife and I plan to drive down for that one ourselves. Maybe I can sweet-talk her into dancing with me. He'll be there again for a longer show of his own the following evening. You can check out his website at www.johnpaulmartin.com if you'd like to learn more about what he's up to. We need to take a little break to let our sponsors tell you about their services and how they can help you, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, John Paul's going to share a story about someone who's very special to him, and we're going to get to hear a little more about his life in West Texas. It's Texas Tunesmith, and it's on Texas Best Country, KBST 95.7.